Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our latest live video. As always, we're on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. And today we're going to be talking about websites and specifically kind of the recipe, for the perfect website. I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Dom Wint. Do you want to just quickly say hi and introduce yourself, Dom?
Hi, everybody. I'm Dom. My company's Stream Page Design. Been building websites now for, it just came up on LinkedIn actually, my work anniversary. It's 11 years as of yesterday, maybe. I don't know if that's right or not, but yeah, so I build websites for SMEs, and yeah, just helping people to sort of find their way through and put their best foot forward online.
Perfect, Dom. So it's 11 years since you put it onto LinkedIn anyway, if nothing else.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah,
11 years. So thank you for that. And as always with these videos, I know some people watch it live and a number of people watch it kind of after the event as well. So if you do have any comments or questions, please feel free to put them in the box or ask us afterwards, and can always pass them on to Dom. And same with any of the channels. So just put it in the comment box, and we'll do best to answer them as much as possible. So yeah, we won't take any more time because I know Dom's got lots of brilliant content. So I'm going to put this up on the screen for you, Dom, and I'll let you kind of go, and we'll take it from there.
Right, brilliant, thank you. So hello, everybody. As you see there, the recipe for the perfect-ish website. I mean, is it ever going to be perfect? I mean, a website's kind of a living thing, so it'll never be right when it's launched. It'll be as close as it possibly can be, and then obviously as you do things with it, it'll need tweaking. But anyway, let's see where we go with this. So this is how kind of, before you even kind of move a single pixel, there's kind of a whole host of things about getting a website up and running. And I think it's one of those situations where the more thought and planning you put in at the outset before you even start to think about how it's going to be laid out and what's going to look like and all that business, you kind of setting yourself up for a better product, a little bit more success, or at least, I'm hoping, going to show you at least something against which you can measure what's happening, so you don't end up in 6 months' time thinking, why is this not doing what I wanted it to do? If you don't set out at the outset what you want it to do, you can't really go back 6 months later and say, why is it not doing this? If you've got these things in place at the start, then at least you can then start saying, you've got something to measure it against and look at successes and failures. So that's where we start, really. What is the purpose of the website? So this, I guess this applies as much to someone who's already got one as to someone who's in the market for a new one or whatever. It's never really too late to do this process. But if you were starting from the ground floor, then this is sort of the thing you would start to think about. But these things can be removed and added as you go if you've got an existing site. So you have the traditional brochure website, which is just your online presence, where, you know, here we are, this is what we do and where we are, that kind of thing. Or you can obviously have a site that, I guess most people want a website that will mean the phone rings or the inbox starts stacking up with inquiries. Obviously you can sell physical or digital products. You can try to encourage people, say like a bathroom showroom or a car dealership, where you actually want people to physically walk into the shop or onto the forecourt. Or you could be trying to grow a mailing list or grow some sort of CRM, so you can, do I mean CRM? Yes. So you can kind of market via email or in other ways. And obviously it can be a combination of these. You know, you'll obviously see if you sell products, you often have mailing list signups as well. So you can send people details of your offers and things like that, and sales. So if you at the outset, so write a list or put these things in order of importance and remove the ones that don't apply to you. So let's say you want a brochure website to show people what you're doing. You want to grow a mailing list so you can kind of tell people when new products or new services or whatever are on board, and you also want to make the phone ring. So that's kind of, these are the things that you want the website to do. And then you can think about how you're actually going to get people to get to the site, because as much as you can have a lovely looking website and the content can be great and all that, you're not necessarily going to, especially not from day one, you're not going to suddenly land on online and everyone's going to come and visit the site. And obviously in the early days, only people that you tell that the website's there are going to be able to find it. So you need to have this in mind when you start to think about moving the site forward and how you're going to market it and get the name out there. So we talk about organic SEO, so search engine optimization. Organic SEO is where, through content and link building and other work that you do with your site and around the web, you end up appearing in search results for specific terms. If you don't want to sort of wait for that to happen, because it can be quite a slow process, you can obviously pay to appear higher up at the top of the search and the search listings for keywords. You can obviously use social media marketing, which I know a lot of people are finding a lot more value for money than the traditional sort of pay-per-click type marketing. And the level of detail you can use, especially on socials, in terms of who you present your adverts to, it's quite scary. I know it was discussed a while ago about the Social Dilemma Netflix documentary, if anyone's seen that. But the level of detail that these places hold on you is scary from an individual point of view, but really, really useful from a marketing point of view, because you can really, really fine tune who you present it to. If you already have a mailing list, obviously you can send out news on that mailing list. You can use print, radio, TV, the traditional media. Obviously, if you do a lot of face-to-face networking, you can use just business cards and just mentioning your name, or and that's fine. It's fine. So throughout this kind of process, if you just want the website because you just think you should have a website because everyone else does, and you just think you need to be in the 21st century and have a website, that's absolutely fine. There's no reason to have a website that you drive traffic to and that you're trying to convert and all this business. It can just be there as you would have a traditional print brochure. You have a traditional brochure website. That's fine. So think about, with these things, it's easy to sort of think, right, well, we're going to do sort of really hardcore organic SEO, and we're going to do a lot of social media marketing, and we're going to write a lot of blogs, and we're going to do a lot of this stuff. If you don't have the people in the business that are going to be able to do that for you, then don't sort of make that part of the plan. Work to your strengths, I suppose, I would say. And it could be that the people within the business that are capable of doing this, and you want to sort of give them the reins to this and let them get on with it. But sort of, we'll probably come to this in a bit with the content plan and such, but work to your strengths. If you think you want to have kind of case studies and things on the website, make sure you're in a business where case studies are appropriate for how you would show people what you do and what you've been doing. So we've come to this now. So are you going to update the site? Because a lot of people say they want to, and increasingly with systems like WordPress and other such website building systems, it's easy to do that. It's easy to put that functionality in there so that people can add things to the site. But it's another matter actually doing it. And you do find that a lot of people, they say they want that function and they don't have it. And what you end up is with a news or a blog feed where it's very sporadically updated, where people come to the site and they look and it sort of says last updated, last June or something like that. It doesn't give off that right impression. You're better off not having it than having it and not updating it. So you can update it with blog posts and news, or case studies and testimonials, or both. You're going to put new products and services on if you're selling things, or you're going to events, or again, no, you're not going to do anything with it. It's fine. But bear that in mind when you come to sort of judge the success of it in months and years' time. Then this will reflect on how based on how you've decided to update it or not. So sometimes, I don't want to say it's hard work building a website, but the process can take a while, and it's easy to sort of think it's just a case of giving someone some pictures and a bit of text, and it kind of that's it then. And when you launch it, that's kind of, you launch the site and the job's done. But actually, that part of the job's done, but the kind of rest of the work of the website then kind of takes over, as in what the website is going to do for you and your business. So it's worth starting to have an idea of, if we are going to update the site, then how are we going to do that, and plan. I've said here at least 6 months worth of content. So just like you would make a social media plan, or you might do, you're supposed to, you do the same with your website. So put it on a calendar or whatever, and work out what you've got in your business that you, I suppose, don't give it all away right at the start. So if you build a website, it's got a news feed and a case studies section, and you've got 20 case studies, and you've got 7 or 8 different news stories that are reasonably timely, but not kind of, don't need to be on there right now. Hold some back so that you've got things that you can keep adding to the site, and you can keep showing people that things are happening with the website, so that when people come to the website, maybe every 2-3 weeks or a month even, they can see things are moving and new things are being put on, rather than it all being splurged in one go. People arrive and there's 20 beautiful case studies, but then that's all there is, and it stays there like that. So start to think about how you're going to update the site if you plan to, and what that's going to look like, and hold things in reserve. If you know that you might struggle for the first few months, if you put it all out there at the start, you might struggle to then sort of add to it within the first few months. And now you think about what people are actually looking for. So when it comes to this is kind of, this pertains to kind of how you end up in search engine results, really. So do you know what people are actually searching for, or do you just think they might be searching for X or service X or service Y? And do you describe things in a way that kind of lines up with what people are searching for? So I've got a kitchen fitter client at the minute, or a kitchen designer client. So they're straight away. Do people search for kitchen fitter, or are they searching for a kitchen designer? And there's kind of assumptions and associations between those two things. You might not want to describe yourself as a kitchen fitter. You might feel you're a bit above that and you are a kitchen designer. But if people aren't searching for kitchen designer, then you're kind of fighting a losing battle. It might be better for so to go back and say, if you're just building a brochure site that you're not trying to sort of do anything with in search engine results, then being a bespoke kitchen designer might be perfect for what you do. But if you're trying to get higher up search rankings, you might find that more people are searching for kitchen fitter. So you might have to sort of lower yourself to describing yourself in that way. So, yeah, it's a balancing act, I suppose, between what people are actually looking for and how you would describe your business. And is there enough volume to justify focusing on certain keywords, to kind of hang on to those keywords? And are this last point, are there terms which are slightly less competitive, but you can kind of, I'll just preface it by saying I don't do kind of ongoing hardcore SEO, but I know enough to be dangerous. There's kind of some sweet spots where the volume, the numbers of people that are looking for something is high or reasonably high, let's say in the hundreds or even in the low thousands, but the competition for that keyword is not really strong. And they're the kind of Goldilocks keywords, as far as I understand, where they're just the right balance of enough people, but not enough competition, and you can kind of fit into those niches. And rather than putting all your eggs in one basket and trying to sort of aim at just one specific keyword, you might be better off finding 5 to 10 of these sort of sweet spot keywords where you can sort of slot in, and rather than trying to push for something where it gets 100,000 searches a month, but everybody's trying to optimize for that. So this is where you do some keyword research, find out what the numbers say, find out what the competition is doing in terms of how competitive those keywords are. And just make sure that when you're starting to put content together or describe your business, that you are describing what people are looking for, you're not describing something just because that's what you think your business should be called, or how you should be describing your business.
On that, Dom, actually, yeah. Something I've noticed a bit recently with content in relation to SEO, I guess, is that whether it's a blog, whether it's just general content on the website, feels like they've written the content for SEO purposes, not for the content to be good.
Yeah.
And that's a very simplistic way of looking at it, obviously, but it feels like there's essentially shoehorning terms and things like that into
I'm just going to use that word.
Yeah.
I've got clients who've paid for, and probably paid not very much for SEO. This is not to say if you pay more, it's going to automatically be better. Just you will find on places like Fiverr and things like that, people that will do SEO for you or write, 300 300-word optimized blog post for you. And the problem sometimes is if you're given a keyword, again, I'm going to go off a bit here, and this is not based on any. It is based on what I understand, but I'm not doing SEO, so run this past an SEO person, but I'm pretty sure this is correct. We're moving more towards a kind of intent sentiment type search as opposed to a specific keyword sort of search system or basis. So whereas in the olden days, as it were, you would keyword stuff. You would get a keyword like kitchen designer in Manchester, and you would try to put that as many times as possible on your page. I mean, you even get to the stage a long time ago, before many algorithm updates, where you put it in white text and hide it somewhere, so you would these kind of grey hat, black hat type practices. And with what I've seen with some of the sort of cheaper or the sort of Fiverr people per hour off the shelf type will write you a blog post, is you give them a keyword and they give you text back that just contains that keyword, but it doesn't make sense. So it's fine to say, I am a kitchen designer in Manchester. If you are looking for a kitchen designer in Manchester, that's fine. And if you do that subtly enough, it won't seem odd. But there are some sentences where kitchen designer in Manchester just does not work. But because that's your keyword, it's kind of been shoehorned in there. So yeah, you have to be careful, and you kind of have to, you probably need to write more words, but just, and again, it's that kind of sentiment of being a kitchen designer in Manchester, just to keep running with that example, rather than keep pushing that keyword in there. If you mention kitchens, you mention kitchen design, you mention other things around that might work just as well in terms of optimizing the page. But also, as a human being reading that content, you'll be a lot less likely to go, this just sounds like a robot's written this. So there's this idea of having all the information and having all the sort of stats and what you need to have in there for Google's, for the purposes of Google, but also remember that you are writing for human beings. And I think the algorithms are getting a lot cleverer in how they interpret what's on the page, and they're not just looking for the keyword. They are kind of analyzing the sentiment of the piece as a whole. So it doesn't have to be that you just keep shoehorning that keyword in 20 times in 300 words, because there are situations where it just doesn't work and it just doesn't read right. So yeah, definitely to agree with you on that. So yeah, so to go back to this, your competition. So you've got your keywords, and you can have umpteen keywords, and you can spread them around your site. In fact, it's best not to have everything kind of optimized just for the homepage. You sort of spread the keywords out through the site, and then work out what your competition's doing in terms of other businesses that have in your industry that have websites. And again, this might make a difference how you plan what you're going to do. Yeah, and you can use information from your competitors to help you, as it says at the bottom there. So if you do competitor analysis, you can see what other businesses are doing. You can see where they've kind of got links from, where they're posting their content. You can see what keywords they're optimizing for, or what keywords they're using in their site, and you can gauge. Again, if you take on a professional SEO company, they'll be able, again, the amount of statistics. You can't see kind of inside their website, the competition's websites, as it were, but you can get a general idea a really good general idea of what it is that they're doing, and you can sort of cherry pick from that what you think might work best for you. So if you kind of, you work out what sort of site you've got, you work out how you're going to drive traffic to it, and then you work out kind of what people are searching for, how your site fits in alongside the competition, and how you're going to update the site going forward. And then you can start thinking about, you've got your keywords, you can then start to think about how you're going to present that to human beings. So how you want, and again, this is where it's an opportunity for you to be to display what you want the business to be, kind of not how it is now. The business might kind of be, I don't know, you could describe it kind of, it could be quite sort of ordinary or quite run of the mill, or it could be quite, you might think it's quite boring in what you do, but you have the opportunity with the site not to sort of tell fibs and kind of make it look like you're doing amazingly well, or you're this kind of global company. You know, that's a whole other matter when you sort of you're a one-man band that starts talking about we, or you've got a PO box in London, so you sort of talk about having offices around the world and things like that. But it's an opportunity to kind of aim at the market you want to attract, rather than sort of being a mirror to what the business is doing day to day or is doing right now. So this is the bit where you can start to sort of get the mood boards going and kind of plan how you want to present yourself. Writing the catchy headlines, you're writing things that grab people's attention, thinking about how you're going to, if you're building a mailing list, how the first 3 emails are going to look and how you're going to try to attract new business in that sense. And then developing this keyword focused content plan for the next few months and years. So you can really start to dream. Once you've got all that kind of data and you know what sort of website you're building and who you're aiming at, what the competition's doing, then you can start to sort of place yourself in that landscape and work out how best to promote yourself. And this has happened before anything's been put on paper, as it were, or on a screen. You can be gathering together ideas that you like, colors that you like. You can be looking at your branding, looking at your logo, looking at how it's a real kind of, it's an exciting time, because you can start to think, right, this is what we've got, and this is who we are, this is where we want to be. So we present what we want to be and where we want to be and how we want to be perceived, and you can start sort of bringing all that together. Oh, just to go back, I was going to put a link in, but it's to an Instagram slide. There's a guy on, he's everywhere, but there's a guy I follow on Instagram called Chris Doe, who's a designer, who runs a design agency in the States, who charges, he's got a great YouTube video actually about how much to charge for a logo design, where he's charging 6 figures for logo designs. But when he explains it, you can understand why he's doing that. I mean, you're talking about things like Verizon and things like that, sort of really big companies. But he had a guest post a set of slides the other day about your logo, and there's this sort of ongoing joke in web design that the client always wants the logo making bigger. But there was a really interesting slide about how to just make sure that your logo is a good logo. And it said things like, take the logo and reduce it by 50%. Is it still obvious what the logo is trying to present? Take the logo and make it all white or black, and do various things with it, and see how strong your logo stays when you kind of change it around and move it about and change the colors and things like that. So just to go off on a tangent, I thought it was a really good slide. So I don't know if there's any way I can show that to people, but yeah, I was trying to work out how to embed an Instagram post into this, but it just wouldn't have it. So anyway, I'll
see if I can try and find it and share it.
Yeah, I'll take it. I think you can send it. I can share the link to it. Certainly, I've saved it in my
Perfect.
Yeah, and then so once everything's gone, I mean, we've kind of skipped over the part where we build the website and all that business, but once you actually make the thing live, it's important that you measure, and you measure based on what the initial intentions were. So if your initial intentions was you've done the keyword research, and it suggests that you with the keywords you're using, there's probably say 3,000 people searching for X every month. So you were expecting to get, I don't know, 1,000 visitors a month. if you're not then measuring that, you can't really say yes or no, it's been a success or not. So make sure that you've got things in place to track how many visitors you've got, where they're coming from, what they've been searching for. I think I'm right in saying Google's made this more difficult because of privacy laws and such. If someone's searching Google and they are logged into their Google account, there's certain things that can't be tracked. And the same goes for with the update to the, I think I went on about this before, but the cookies and the cookie laws, how you can't, which is why all of a sudden all these cookie pop-ups have appeared on everybody's website about accepting cookies. I think there's a way around it. I've not quite worked out what it is, but in theory, you can't even track someone's visit unless they accept a cookie to place the analytics tracking cookie on the site. So it can get tricky. It's not going to be an exact science, but you can certainly track how many inquiries you're getting. And don't be afraid of saying on a contact forms, it's easy to put a drop down to say, where did you hear about us? But if people are emailing or people are phoning, you just ask, can I ask how you found out about us? And if they say, I just put X in Google, then, and that was your goal, then perfect. People are finding you that way. So that's a good way of doing that. But just make sure that you're measuring stuff and then checking it against what the aims and the goals were. And then these are the kind of the nuts and bolts of the website, just to make sure that these things are in place. This last one, submission to Google and Bing, that means when you develop a website, you'll end up with a sitemap file that you would tell, sorry about that, you would tell Google and Bing that your site's there, and then that will mean that their crawlers can go to the site and go through it all and index it as best it can, and sort of say you're on the search engines. So make sure you do that. And one thing I've noticed from a few people recently is the sites that I've launched, they've not then got a Google My Business listing, which is a really straightforward thing to do, but it seems to get missed by quite a few people. So just make sure that you've got that in there. But just to run through this quickly, I mean, it seems increasingly now, as we kind of went through a stage of everyone was getting super fast broadband, so it kind of didn't really matter how kind of bloated the website was, or how large the images were, how much script and code and things it was using, because you've got 100 meg download, it doesn't matter, or even faster than that in some places. But we're now moving to the stage where a lot more people are using, I mean, they have been for years, but this moved back to kind of making sure things run properly on sort of 4G and mobile networks. And also, you can get a bit, as a designer, you can get a bit lazy and get a bit trapped in, I always use this and I always do that and I always have this. Just be mindful that that's not always the optimum thing to do for the site. So it might be that you like having huge graphics and animations and things that move in and out and slide about, and slideshows and things that move, but ultimately they could be kind of impacting the speed of the site. And if people have got to kind of, especially if they're kind of looking for something on the go and they're waiting for your site to come up, then they're going to go back and find someone else's potentially. And I know I do that, and I'm fairly patient because I kind of understand that not all websites kind of load really, really quickly, but there'll be some people that search for something and click it, and if it's not there within 2-3 seconds, that's it, they've gone. I mean, that's the kind of statistic that gets bandied about, is if it doesn't load within 3 seconds, or at least something happens. So you're not just waiting, watching a spinner going around, you are at least kind of seeing something appear, you know that something's happening. Yeah, mobile responsiveness should be a given. If anyone gives you a quote nowadays, it's got a separate line item for sort of making the website mobile or responsive, then I would say it's a little, I don't know if it's, I should say this really, it's a bit, to me, it's a bit of a red flag. It kind of comes as standard, I would say now. Yeah, accessibility, just make sure it's accessible. It could be used by screen readers and things like that, so people with the visual impairments or the disabilities can still access the information on the website. Make sure you've got all your policies on there. Make sure you've got the cookie banners that everyone just clicks accept. But yeah, it's worth, as a site owner, it's worth looking a bit into that and what the legislation is around that, because it is something. There was a case in Germany recently I've looked at which made me really, really quite angry. But if Google offers a series of fonts. If you go to fonts.google.com, there's lots of fonts that you can use on your website. Beautiful fonts, and they're free. They're not, but well, they are. They're free to use and whatever, and they're great. And one of the ways you can use them in your website is you can put some script in an area of your website, and it kind of loads the fonts from Google as people access the site. And sometimes you'll see this, and they call it FOUT, a flash of unstyled fonts. So there'd be a system font like Helvetica or something that will appear, and then very, very briefly, and then suddenly this sort of really nice font will kick in that's supposed to be there. And that's as your website is kind of downloading the fonts from Google and putting them into the site. But someone in Germany, a user in Germany, realized that as that was happening, their IP address was, I think I've got this right, their IP address was being logged with Google. So although it's not like personal information, it still falls kind of under this GDPR cookie policy type legislation, where that was a piece of information by which they could be identified, and they took whoever it was. I think they ended up with a small fine, €200 or something. But it's just one of those things where you think, oh, no one will mind, or it's not doing anything serious, or it's just the IP address, or it's just this. You just need to sort of tread carefully around these things, because there potentially will be someone that's kind of a bit on it in terms of the legislation that will say, I don't want you to track my visit. I don't want anything to do with Google. I don't want anyone to know that I mean, you could say, well, you're on the internet, so Google knows everything about you, probably the case. But yeah, just be aware of why these things, don't just sort of say, oh, I don't want anything like that on there, because that has repercussions on how your website works. Yeah, legal gubbins, you need, if you're a limited company, you should have a registered address, your company number, VAT reg number, things like that. And then overall design, obviously, it's subjective, but don't sort of, things are done a certain way for certain reasons, and people kind of, I think people, there was somebody, I've seen plenty of discussions where, I think I mentioned this last time I was on, actually, about what sort of which of these 3 websites are you designing today, and it was like one with a big picture and 3 boxes, or one with a picture and then a box next to it. But there's a reason for that. I think as users of the internet now, I mean, how long has it been going? 30 years or whatever more. Even particularly in the last 10 to 15 years, it's become absolutely kind of ubiquitous throughout our lives. I think people expect sites to behave in a certain way, and they kind of look for certain things, and there's kind of a language of web design that people now expect. So I don't think it's lazy to sort of have the same basic layout, or at least have things appear in the same way. It's kind of, people are looking for things like the hamburger menu for the navigation, or they expect to see a big picture and a call to action, or they expect to see your top 3 services I think people are looking for these things, or expect it at least. So it's not like you haven't got to do something different for the sake of it. People expect a certain, just like you'd buy a book, you'd expect it to have a cover and an index, and the chapters listed out and all that, and a foreword and all that business. I think people kind of expect the same with websites now. That was much quicker than I thought it would be, and I practiced that. I didn't time it though. Yeah, so just to wrap up, it's a case of you can't. This is going to, it might sound quite passive aggressive, actually. If we've got any of my clients listening, they're going to go, oh, yeah. But you can't launch a website, get 6 months down the line, and then say it's not doing X, when X wasn't a thing that was made clear at the outset it should be doing. If you're expecting to get 1,000 visitors a month just by virtue of your website existing, it's not, unless you have something unique, or you go around everyone's house leaflet dropping or forcing them onto your website, they're not going to find it unless you've done the number crunching and you've worked out the strategy for how you're going to get them to the site. So you can't go back to your developer in 6 months and say, I'm not getting enough inquiries, I'm not getting enough visitors, people aren't finding me, I'm not appearing in Google, if the initial goal was, I just want a brochure website. Because I don't know how other designers and developers what inquiries they get, but you do hear that state that sort of request. Oh, I just want a website. I just feel like I should have a website, and that's fine. You launch the website, but then 6 months down the line, oh, I'm not getting anything from my website. Well, no, we just wanted a brochure website. There wasn't any discussion of strategy or numbers or visitors or how that was going to be used further down the line. So it should be a conversation. It shouldn't just be, I just want a website. Oh, it's not working. This is no good. It should be, right, I want it to do this. I want to find out what I should be optimizing for and what people are searching for. I want to know what my competition's doing. I want to know where I sit in that landscape. And then if then people aren't coming, then you've got something to say, right, we need to change something, or we need to do something because it's not working. But yeah, you need to have those, you need to be thinking about those things before you start, or as you start, certainly. And it's easier, it's slightly easier to do it from the outset than to try and sort of retrofit some of these things to the site, especially if the numbers, if you're not tracking anything, then suddenly you think you're not getting enough inquiries. If you can't see any numbers, it's really hard to quantify what's gone wrong or what needs improving.
That makes lots of sense, Dom. And I think, like I said, that expectations is important for what you're trying to achieve, and I guess that will always evolve over time as well. Probably being realistic as well. You know, when you, like you kind of touched on earlier, when you first launched the website, it could be the best looking website in the world, but reality is not that many people are going to be seeing it just because of you're a new business, and that SEO and all that type of stuff's just not had time to run through yet. But you need a strategy to do that. To get whatever that point, you know, like you said, it could be just a front end brochure. People you meet will go and just kind of check you out just to see your legitimate type website, fine. Or if, I guess, things like if you're selling products through a website, you need traffic, don't you? You need numbers.
Yeah. That's the one where I think it kind of matters the most, really. If you're just trying to launch something where you're just solely going to sell things online, you've got to do this exercise to work out if it's a viable product, because ultimately your business is going to stand or fall based on whether you sell anything or not. I mean, it's different if you're offering sort of accountancy or something like that. You've probably got existing clients and people probably look for you in different ways. But if you are trying to sort of develop an online e-commerce business, then you need to know you've got the volume there. And then if the volume is there and the products are right, then there's so many parts of an e-commerce site that can fall down, just in terms of how people how the shopping experience is. Again, in those sort of markets, when you're competing with potentially with really large businesses that have got quite a big budget, they've got a team of developers on board, they've got, the processes now that, I mean Amazon's the obvious one to go at, but it just becomes, it's almost second nature to order from Amazon. And I think people just expect that kind of simplicity. So yeah.
That makes sense. Thank you, Dom. So just to wrap up, really, is if people want to find out more a little bit about you or the stuff you do, where's the best places to look and find you?
You can look at my brochure website that doesn't get updated very often. So I'm at cleanpagedesign.co.uk. If you're looking for me on socials, then probably LinkedIn's probably the best, as much as I get alerts and I'll respond on there. I'm in a bit of a dilemma of my. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, just at Clean Page Design, but I'm having an internal wrestle at the minute with whether I should even. But I think at the start of the week I was trying to find out how to delete my Facebook page, and it's hard. I don't know if I've made it harder than it needs to be, but I could not for the life of me find out to get rid of my page. I very rarely update them, and it's becoming that kind of anchor where it's always there, and I think I should do it, and I know it's sort of negatively reflect. Anyway, I'm going off on my little all my dark secret. Anyway, cleanpagedesign.co.uk. Find me on LinkedIn, Dom Wint, and I am on Facebook and Instagram, but don't expect much from me on
there. Thank you, Dom. And obviously, if anyone you can't find Dom for whatever reason, contact us at Northern Affinity, and we can pass on the details. So thank you so much, Dom, for that. There's some brilliant content there, and this will be kind of going onto our YouTube page as always as well, for people to look at any particular point as part of the library of all the other great content that we've got on there from various people, including Dom's done some things previously as well. So yeah, thank you, really appreciate your time, and I'm sure a lot of people got a lot of benefit from that.
Great. Yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you, Dom.
Cheers.